First, let me say, if we haven't met, I'm Harmony. I'm the Director of Worship for the Vineyard in the UK and Ireland. It is my joy to hang out with you tonight. It's been a few months since we've done a webinar, and what a season it has continued to be for us all. Oh my goodness. And in every webinar that we've done, our main message to you is well done for continuing to stay at your post, for showing up to the things that God has called you to. And this season requires us to stay close to Jesus like no other season that I've ever known in my lifetime, and to continue to nurture that friendship with Jesus in the hidden place. It is a really tough time to be a worship leader or a musician or whatever your role is. You're super welcome tonight. I really hope that you will be encouraged and maybe a little bit challenged as well, equipped in some way, a bit more connected maybe to others that are in the same boat as you. And truth is, we are called to follow Jesus no matter what the season, no matter what the cost. And well done for all of you that are showing up and doing what you're called to do and being who you're called to be in this season. So now that I think we've got a critical mass here on with us, I'll do a quick hello to our panel, and starting with Jesse Duley. Give us a little wave. This is Jesse Duley. We will hear more from him in a few minutes. And Olu Meduoye, little hello from him, and we'll talk to him in a moment. And Maria from Copenhagen, you are so welcome with us. And we've had an unfortunate last minute change to our panel, in that Sheena Dick, who was supposed to be on our panel with us tonight, has had a family emergency just literally moments before this webinar. So we will really miss her, and I promise to bring her back at another point in time, because I think what she had to bring tonight was very unique, and I think we all want to know about her particular area of interest. But we have improvised very quickly, and I have a little surprise for you towards in a few minutes, after some of the other guys have had a chance to share. We have a little extra special guest who's literally just got a text message a few minutes before this webinar, and will be coming on to join us for a few minutes. So that's the news from our end, and this is our panel. We're excited to hang out together. When we scheduled this webinar, however, we thought we'll pick November, because we'll maybe kind of be in the same spot where people are returning to gatherings, and you know, we'll have a sense of what that might look like, or be getting ready to do that. And well, we're just not in that place, actually. That has all changed at the last minute for many of you. We've got a little poll coming on. We'd love to know where you are joining us from. So Sandra's going to pop up a little poll, and we would love to know where you are. So this will really quick, there's that question, and then there's the question of what your gatherings have looked like, whether you have done them online, or if you've managed to get any in-person gatherings in before the latest set of restrictions. We'd just love to know where you're at. So there'll be two questions coming on, and as you're listening to me for a minute, you can do that as well. And that will be helpful and interesting information for us. So tonight is going to look a little bit different in terms of how we're running this webinar. The last couple of webinars, we have fired questions at the panel, and they've kind of all joined in and answered the same questions. Tonight, we're going to try something a little bit different, in that we are going to do a couple of short talks. I'm calling them TED Talks, just for sake of argument here tonight. So we'll have a couple of TED Talks from our panel, and And then we will have some Q&A at the end where you can fire some wonderful questions at them. And before that, we are going to hear a story of encouragement. And I am really excited that Olu has agreed to come on this webinar tonight and share his story. And I think it's going to be a tremendous encouragement to us all. And so I've called this the Worship Tribe Story, saying yes to leadership in a pandemic. And the thing that has really stood out to me about this story is that we're at a time when leadership is really hard, and there are so many people that are either quitting or thinking about quitting, just finding it a really difficult season to lead. And I was so impacted by Olu and hearing his story of how he is taking on leadership instead of giving up leadership. And I was really inspired by it. So before we go to our TED Talks, let's take a few moments and hear from Olu. I wonder if this little poll needs to finish off. I'm not really sure how this works. Do I click end poll? I'm not really too sure. Sandra, maybe you can help me out here, but we are ready to hear from Olu. And why don't we go ahead and dive into that. Olu, if you are ready.
Cool. Yeah.
We would love to hear a bit of your story. And you know, we've only been recently getting to know each other a little bit, mainly by email. And you've been involved in a couple of our songwriting environments and things. But anyway, so you are fairly new to the Vineyard, is that right?
Yeah, so newish. I've been known to the church I currently head up worship in for about 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I joined the church because of well, basically my wife was serving in the church, and I joined the church around 2 years ago, and then kind of started my journey in the worship team around about 6 months into my time in Highway Vineyard. So just preface that I'm my name is Olu. I'm a singer-songwriter, worship leader from East London, and I currently head up the worship team in Highway Vineyard, which is in Stratford. And yeah, like Harmony said, I started my leadership journey in terms of worship during lockdown, during the time where we haven't been able to see our teams. So yeah, and in terms of what's actually happened, the first thing was that this year has been obviously crazy and very unexpected in terms of what's happened. But me and my wife literally are still just incredibly grateful because we got to have our wedding. We got to get married literally just before everything hit, and this is in February, and I can literally remember coming back from our honeymoon and speaking to my pastor of my church and him saying in passing that potentially next week we wouldn't be able to meet. And I can remember actually laughing because it sounded unbelievable. I genuinely laughed. I was like, no, we're going to be fine. This isn't going to be that much of a big deal. And then what, 9 months later, we're still kind of still trying to get back there. So yeah, it's been a long journey, and yeah, we came back from our honeymoon, went straight into lockdown. At the time, I was heading up the musicians in my church, and then during the actual lockdown process, our assistant pastor who had headed up the ministry got a new job in another Vineyard church up in Teesside, and the leadership team at my church asked me if I could step up and head up the worship ministry. And to be honest, I snapped their arm off. I said yes straight away, like absolutely, it was absolutely, definitely. But I mean, that's not to say that it hasn't been challenging and it hasn't had its stuff, you know. So, and it's a difficult time. Leadership is difficult in general. Obviously, everyone who's leading in teams knows that. But at a time like this, where you don't have the comfort of, I guess, stable ground, and it seems like the terrain is constantly changing. So one week you can meet together, the next week you can't. One week, you know what I mean, like based on the legal stuff and based on the government and based on just our situation, I think one of the main things that I've taken away from this year is how luxurious it was, the position we were in a year ago, where we could just turn up and everything was already there. And it was just so easy in comparison. And it was just, yeah, it was very, very easy. And you never had to worry about so many of these technical issues, so many of these things that now we're having to deal with. But um, I've heard a lot of people speak about it, and one of the things that I always take away from what other people say and kind of things that I've held on to during this time is that it's kind of making us realize why we do this stuff. Like this is it. Because if, to be honest, as worship leaders, if we're doing it for feeling good or for the great moments when there's thousands of people singing a song back to us, or the lights, or the smoke machine and the big conferences, then boy, it's going to be rough right now, because we're not getting much of that. Like we're on the kind of the Zoom call, and we're on the technical issues, and yeah, and it's tough, but it's making us all realize, as a team in my church, we've really been having to kind of like hold on to kind of what it really is, what we're actually doing it for. And we're not doing it we're not doing it so that it'll be perfect, so that every single worship set will blow everyone's socks off. We're doing it in service of Jesus Christ and in service of our church. And like, if that's not the reason why we're doing it, then what's the point? Like, what is the point? So I'm not sure if I just rambled there, but yeah,
Oh, that was amazing.
that was kind of, yeah, that's kind of a very kind of condensed version of what's happened. But yeah, it's been amazing. And like, I can't thank the leadership team in my church, my pastor Simon and the assistant pastor Christine, enough for like putting faith in me and really being like an open ear um, when I've kind of been unsure of things. And yeah, I'm definitely on the side of like, it hasn't been easy. So it's not, even though I snapped their arm off, maybe there's been moments where I've been thinking, oh, maybe I've bitten off a little bit more than I could chew here. But this is why we need God's grace, you know. So yeah.
That is amazing. I love your energy and your passion for this, and your saying, what was the phrase you used? I snatched their arm off or something.
Arm off, yeah.
Yeah, so you were really keen. That gives me a sense that maybe the Lord was speaking to you about this before you were ever asked.
Yeah. And I feel like even when you're going into a difficult situation, and even when you know it's going to be challenging, when it's God's will and you know it's Him, then you feel that peace about it. Like, you feel peace even though you know that there's going to be some painful things, and there's going to be some blows, and you're going to get criticized, and you're going to get judged, and people are going to feel like you're not, you know what I mean, it should be better than it is. But that's what it is sometimes, to serve Him. It's being like, I love when you speak harmony, because you always you're one of these people that, like, I feel like in the Vineyard leadership there is this sense of, we bear our marks. Like, we don't hide when we're going through stuff, which is good, because it reminds us that we're all human, and we've all got vulnerabilities, we've all got stuff. And I think that's great, because it means that as leaders we can all be encouraged, the fact that we're not the only one that sometimes is in pain, and that sometimes feels like they're not doing as well as they could. Like, me and my wife, we did a worship set just a few weeks ago, and because of the technical issues, I literally grieved afterwards. I grieved because of the technical issues, because I was like, oh my goodness, how could that go wrong? How could it be like that? But then my wife was literally like, well, why are we doing this? If it's for it sounding perfect, then what's the point? What's the point? Like, Jesus, God has angels. Like, you know what I mean? He has the best in heaven. Like, he's not looking for us to be like to like, oh yeah, let's like, you know what I mean? If he wanted perfection, you know, he's got perfection. So it's like, in this season, it's really been teaching us so much about just what we aspire for, why we're doing this, and if we're doing it for the right reason. Like, we need to check ourselves and be like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I doing it for just how I feel, or am I doing it because I love God and I want to serve His church effectively? So yeah.
That is outstanding. So encouraging, so inspiring. But it is a difficult time, isn't it, to start leading? It's not the easiest time to step up. So, some of your specific challenges, talk about that just for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, not seeing the team is tough. Having to be on email and Zoom and WhatsApp, and just trying to organize things from there, and just making sure that everything's, and there's obviously that we're all at different abilities in terms of our technical stuff as well. So some people are very comfortable with the technology and some people less so. So having to kind of like pastor in that way and be kind of empathetic to that whole thing. Um, it definitely teaches you a lot about patience, and also about how like being being better with the administrative stuff can really create a good foundation for the stuff we do when we worship, because it means that the worship leader doesn't have to worry necessarily about the songs and stuff being there and all the lyrics and things, because that stuff's in place already. So I've definitely had to work on my organization, and just be try to be quite pragmatic at times. But yeah, we're getting to it, and in essence, we're hoping by God's grace that a lot of these issues, like that by God's grace next year, that when we're coming out of this, that some of these issues will fade away, and this
Mm.
is kind of almost a temporary thing that we're gonna have to tough this out, and we're gonna have to hold on tight, and we're gonna have to do the best we can. And our equipment is getting better, and we're getting better at kind of like being fluid in terms of our service. But yeah, it is tough, and it's just been a learning process, and just trying to throw myself into it. I'm the kind of guy that I'm willing to make mistakes, just as long as I can learn quickly, because I think that's the best way to learn, is just get dirty, get your hands dirty, and then say sorry when you make mistakes, and learn from it, and try to be humble about it. So yeah, that's what I've tried. Yeah.
That is amazing. And it seems in the chat, your line, "He's got angels," has gone down well. And somebody is saying, "Oh, I can imagine God asking the angels to keep it down when you worship." That's terrible. That's so funny. Um, Very good. That's so encouraging. I'm sure that everyone probably agrees that it's inspiring to hear someone who has got energy and fire in their belly to
Amen.
do the thing that they're called to do. So thank you for sharing that. If any of you have questions about the angels or anything that Olu has shared about leadership, he'll be around for the Q&A. So now I would love to introduce Maria properly. And this is our first little, I suppose, TED Talk here, where I have asked Maria if she would talk about returning to gathered worship, returning to worship in person, because they are a little bit further on than us in Denmark. And so, Maria, when you were on with us before a couple of months ago, you said this line, and I don't remember how many months ago exactly, but it made such an impact that I feel that I can quote it back to you word for word. You said, when asked what you have learned about yourself and leadership in this season, you said, "I've learned that I'm not as good of a leader as I thought that I was." And it was just one of those mic drop moments where we were all like, "Oh my goodness, we just all need to think about that for a minute." And I loved your honesty and the way that you conveyed that in such a way that it got our attention to think about leadership and discipling people. So thank you for coming back. So please talk to us a little bit about what life is like now, and what are you learning now? What's it like for you?
Oh, I'm learning a lot. And thank you for those nice words. The funny thing is, I didn't think about what I said until you said it back to me. um, well, um, just to give a little context, I think in Denmark we closed down a little bit before the UK. Um, so, and of course, we're also a lot smaller. We're not that many people, but we didn't close as much down as you guys or as long. But we had in the spring, we were also not able to meet up. But then I think around May, suddenly we were able to open up. But then there are all these restrictions. And I think I heard that you have it in different ways in different places. But then it depends on if you're in a church. It's all about the number of square meters if you would be able to sing. Um, so we faced the challenge that I'm from Copenhagen Vineyard, and we have about 600 members, and we had 2 services, and not everybody showed up at every service, but we could not have all those people coming with the size of our church hall, what you call it. And so when reopening, we had as a leadership to decide, what's important, because if we had 1 meter between every person, we could be more people, but then we couldn't sing. If we wanted to sing, it would have to be 2 meters from nose to nose. It had to turn the same direction and all these things. So we took like a weekend with the pastoral team, which I'm also part of, and we had to go back to the basic of, like, why are we doing church? What are the non-negotiables in doing church? Is it the number of people that we can gather in the room? If we don't sing, do we want that to be an option? Or what do you want to do? And it took a long time. And then we decided to do something a little creative that we didn't hear that a lot of other people have done. And still, I'm not sure whether it is the best idea, but what we did was that we decided that we wanted to have singing seats and listening seats, so we could fit in more people. And it's a huge amount of work with logistics. Like, we printed stickers with like a singing and listening and lots of information and overviews when you come in, like, do you want to sing? Do you want to listen in worship today? But the cool thing was that when I talked to all the worship leaders about this, I thought, okay, they would be really depressed, but they were not. They were like, okay, now is the time to really look at our culture and look at the why and what is worship, because worship is so much more than singing. It's how we live our lives, and how can we participate and broaden out the spectrum of how we worship together. So we started brainstorming about, how can you be part of worship if you cannot sing? You can see some sing. What can we do to have the kids be involved? All these kinds of things. And we also had, limitations, because you could say, well, you can dance or you can go away and paint, but we still had the limitations of, you can't move around. You have to go to your seat and you have to be stuck there. So that limited what we did. And in the same time, we also had to expand our services. So we went from one morning service and one evening service to having 2 morning services. And then it's all about, where you're going in, and you have to come out the other way, and all kinds of logistics. And then in our church, we have like the church hall. I'm not sure about the right word for that, where you gather. And then we have a basement where we have the kids' church in the morning. So we decided to make some kind of overflow room. And then again, we had the same kind of value-based discussion, because you could put up a screen in the basement and then just say, overflow. People go in the basement if they come late, and because we can't fit as many people as we usually do. But we decided we didn't want to do that, because that could, in the long run, because we don't know how long this is going to continue, end up having people coming late and just go in the basement and drinking coffee and, be social. And we didn't want to create that kind of culture. because that's going to be hard to change back. That's the opposite of what we want to do. So we decided that we wanted to do like almost like a site. So we have a worship leader in the basement with a guitar and a singer, or just one piano and a singer, and we have a separate meeting leader. But then we have a screen for the message, so that will be the same. Then we have a person like running upstairs, like, yeah, we're ready. And so we start in the same time, and we have a break in the middle, which used to be a coffee break, and it's really difficult to not call it coffee break because we can't have coffee now. But then we can kind of coordinate so everybody's ready for when the message is starting. And that's, to me, that's one of the most exciting things, because upstairs there's a stage, there's light, there's in-ear monitors, there's a full band. Downstairs it's like starting a church, and you can hear everybody who's allowed to sing. You can hear everything, and it's really back to basics. And some people have started to just go straight for that room. It's not like a second, the next best choice. I think we as a church discovered something beautiful there, some intimacy that we had missed being a bigger church. So suddenly we realized, okay, we didn't just have triple service now, it's probably quadruple. And that takes a lot of the worship musicians and leaders. And we have talked a lot about how do you lead a room where some people can sing and some people can't. Are the songs, and I think some other people are going to talk about that as well, but how do you do that? And some of the things that we have tried to engage in, that we started to, in the middle of worship, to read the scripture, or you put it up on the screen and have people read it together with us. So incorporate that, because no matter whether we're allowed to sing or not, we could all do that together. And we would have an introduction every time, or we still do, explaining the value about what is worship. That's more than singing, it's everything you do. So we say that every time. And encourage people to, pray over situation, over themselves, over others. So that's the kind of things that we do. And then we ordered from China these communion kits that, yes, with a little lid, and you have this, I don't know even the English word, but you have the bread thingy and the wine, so everybody can have it, and people can come around with masks and gloves and give them to people, and we make it part of the worship. So that's also a way where you can respond actively without being able to sing. So we now, when we finally got the things from China, now we have communing at all our services, and that's just recent. So, but then there's the whole thing. I mean, please stop me because I can talk forever here. The whole thing about how do you make musicians feel like this is a safe place? Are you, afraid when you come and do worship? For example, right now we have a lot of drummers whose wives are pregnant, and that's a risk thing. So for example, I have a drummer, and he'll go in and play drums, and he goes straight to the band room and not meet anyone, and go straight home, and then watch the message on YouTube afterwards or something. So we have all these things, and we also have almost every time, a few days before, somebody writes, well, I was supposed to lead, I was supposed to play, but I can't because I'm being tested for COVID right now, so I have to be at home. And it's just lots of action, because you never really know what's going on. And and here we still don't know from week to week whether we're going to continue to be able to do it like this, or it's going to be closed more down, or whatever's going to happen. So it's interesting to see how you build a culture in this. And I think there's some really good things, because we were forced to be creative, but then we also restricted in ways that I don't like, because recently before we didn't have to wear masks in church. Now we do. So we have to wear a mask when we are walking around. When you sit down on your chair, you can take it off. And you can stand up without a mask for shorter religious actions. So we were like negotiating, not we, but the church network were negotiating with the government, say, you can stand up and sing if you don't do it more than 20 minutes. And I hate timing. I mean, if I worship, I worship. I think that's horrible. So we have to work around that. And for some people, that is 4 songs. For some people, that's 3 songs. But you don't, I mean, you don't want to rush a worship set. You want to stay in worship. How do you do that? So that's, I think that's a restriction I have. I'm very challenged about right now. Yeah, I think I said a lot now.
Well, I think you've probably blown some of our minds with the complexities of some chairs sing and some don't. I would imagine if we could see everyone's faces, there would be some people going, what? But the truth is, no matter where we are and what our guidelines or restrictions are, the complexities and the logistics of the season are enough to nearly finish us off, you know. It is overwhelming, isn't it? The amount of unbelievably strange detail that we're thinking through, things we never thought we would be thinking about. And we have to do it, and we do it gladly, don't we? Because we want to care for our community and care for our neighbors, and of course have a good witness in our community that we actually convey that we care about people. But you are putting a lot of work, aren't you, Maria, into multiple services with multiple complexities. So I would imagine there will be some follow-up questions for you. How on earth does that work? How do you stay sane would be one of my questions. How do you not lose your mind? But so if you have questions, I think Sandra has posted a comment in the chat, but there's a Q&A section if you want to put your questions in there. If you can even wrap your head around what Maria has just told us about what her life is like. So thank you, Maria, for sharing that. And I really admire your willingness to stay at your post with all of the complex things that you're trying to do, and the fact that you always do things with excellence, and you give your all to the things that you're called to. So appreciate that. Maria is the real deal. Those of you that don't know her, she's the real thing. So thank you for that. Next, Jessie, we are really excited to hear from you again. Jessie, oh, looks like we're changing up the screen a little bit here. Now, me and you, just Jessie.
All right, hi.
It's just got
as long as everybody else stays.
Yeah, hopefully. No, it looks like everyone else is there. I think we're just trying, we're playing around with our webinar options here. People are saying they're still there. Great. Jessie, apparently you're learning Greek or refreshing your Greek at the minute, your New Testament Greek, is that right?
Yeah, it's quite a challenge learning a new alphabet and then learning a new dead language that nobody speaks anymore. So yeah, that's really good fun. So just needed a challenge.
As well as learning the new language that is COVID and pandemic, you are learning the new language of Greek. Wow, for fun in your spare time. What a guy. So those of you that know Jessie a little bit, Kingdom Vineyard and Scotland, Jessie as well as Maria were meant to be speaking at our retreat back in the springtime. And Jessie, the thing that we've asked you to talk about is selecting songs for this season. We get lots of questions on this, and there's lots of great discussion happening around this topic. But talk to us for a bit. You have some thoughts, I believe.
I always have thoughts. It's just a question of whether whether they're ready for public consumption or not. Often the things that I'm asked to speak on are things that I've been heard to have a bit of a rant about. So this is my more considered thoughts on song selection during this season.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for putting in the extra work to consider them rather than ranting. We do appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought a rant might not be the best idea, but yeah. So I mean, so yeah, there have been a couple of things that I've seen that have caused me to think, wow, we really need to talk about song selection. But rather than talk about the practicalities or even suggest any particular songs to anybody, I just want to maybe just riff about the things that I really hope we're all thinking about when we're selecting songs for leading others in worship. Because a lot of the time, you've probably heard it said that a lot of people get their theology from the songs that we sing rather than perhaps the sermon that's preached. And I think that works like this because if the however we congregate, there's a kind of spiritual formation environment that's involved in our meeting together and singing together. And the songs are really important ingredients to that. And of course, the sermon is a really important ingredient to that. But the theology of the sermons kind of automatically goes under a level of scrutiny that the theology of the songs sort of seems to miss. And which is a bit odd because the theology of the songs is what really gets into people's bones and it's what really sticks with people. It's not the 3 points of a alliterative sermon that people are repeating as they walk out of the door. It's the song, the one lines that they've been repeating melodically, and they'll continue to repeat without even being aware of it. So because of that, we need to be really careful that our songs that we're singing actually are theologically sound, by which I mean they must be true. And that places a demand on us as worship leaders to essentially become theologians, which might sound a little bit scary, but before you get scared off, let me just indicate that you are already a theologian, whether you like it or not. If you've ever thought about what is true and what isn't, you're a theologian. That's basically what a theologian does, is try to figure out what is true and what isn't. But like it or not, you're also a teacher of theology because you're a song selector and you're somebody who leads with this theology. So I do want that to be a sobering thought, because the role of teacher in the church is a really weighty responsibility. If you just got to read the letter of James in the New Testament to know that there's a whole extra level of accountability that we will have before God as a result of us adopting the role of teacher in the church. So again, don't want you to come away from this thinking, I can't do that, because you're already doing it. But what we do need to do is take that role and take that calling seriously. So if you're still with me, I don't think I've said anything particularly controversial so far, but we'll see how we go from here. So I think that songs, as well as being theologically sound and true, there are other criteria to our selecting songs. A song being true is not enough. And I don't want you to think that I'm saying for a moment that the songs we sing should be untrue. Truth is, I learned this really catchy phrase when I studied theology, that about things that are necessary but not sufficient. So truth is necessary, but it's not sufficient. So a song has to be true, but it also has to be good, right? So if it's rubbish, we won't sing that song. So we're already using other criteria other than it's true. So if I'm honest, when I've selected songs, I've normally stopped there. Like if a song is true and it's good, like that is such a small sort of slice on a Venn diagram, that is normally enough for a song to kind of make it into rotation at the Kingdom Vineyard where I select the songs. But thinking about possible exceptions to this, what came to mind was times that I've led worship at funerals. There are other criteria that come into play when I lead worship at a funeral. I wouldn't, for example, sing Joy to the World or Coming Alive at a funeral. I wouldn't be singing about, I ran out of that grave or something completely cretinous like that. It involves more criteria than just being true and good. So I was wondering what those criteria were, and it seems to be there are these criteria of relevance on the one hand and compassion on the other. Some of that is just really common sense, it's just plain and simple, but it seems that along with the role of theologian and musician and teacher and curator of artistic songwriting, we need to adopt the role of pastor. And that's the role that I'm really wanting us to kind of major on, I think, in our song selection. I think that worship leaders are also called to be worship pastors. And the more that we press into that calling, the more our spiritual formation environments of worship are going to be healthy and vital and fruitful. So in terms of what that means for song selection, I think it would really do us and our congregations a great service if we were to consider ourselves as having the same duty of pastoral care on any given Sunday as we know that we have in examples such as funerals or weddings. We know we need to be context sensitive in those environments. We know that there are some songs which, although true and although good, are simply not appropriate for those settings. Now, if we were to apply that kind of pastoral care every single Sunday, I think that would have an impact on the kinds of songs that we're selecting. So just as a couple of practical and concrete examples of what I think that looks like. Right now, for example, and please don't hear me saying anything negative about these songs other than I think that for a certain season, they are inappropriate song choices. I don't think that while we have to mask up and while it's unsafe to sing together, it's a good idea to sing about the roar of our praises, or perhaps it's a little inappropriate to encourage one's congregation to sing louder when they can't sing at all. More generally speaking, say for example, and this is just a hypothetical, well, it's a hypothetical for me, but say you're a worship leader in Turkey right now, you don't want to be singing about how God shakes the earth, right? If there's an earthquake and a flood or a fire or some natural disaster where people are losing their lives and their homes, let's go easy on those metaphors for a little while, right? They are only metaphors. They're not theological, what's the word I'm trying to, they're not always true. The Bible uses metaphors sparingly and flexibly. Lion imagery is used for both Jesus and Satan, right? So sometimes it's not a good idea to sing about floods and fires and earthquakes. Let's go easy on those metaphors. Let's exercise some pastoral discernment in the relevant and compassionate use of our language. And more widely, again, and I'm coming into land here, more widely is really important not just to consider each song on its own merit, which again is something that I'm guilty of, and I'm starting to grow out of that now, but discern the balance of your whole diet of songs. We need to be concerned about what we're saying, but we're also, we need to be aware of our blind spots and what we're not saying. We might, for example, have only songs about God's new creation and the celebration that we're going to experience at that time. But we might have a huge gap in songs that sing about God's desire for justice and mercy in the here and now. Or we might have songs just about the victory of Jesus, but none about the suffering servant. And even beyond that, I think we should consider where our songs are coming from and the pastoral implications of our selection, our sources for songs. I've begun to ask, who has the monopoly on my song supply? And when there's a monopoly, essentially what happens is all the smaller producers just can't compete and they suffer and die. And then you're at the whims of the monopoly, whichever direction they want to take, because you don't know how to write songs anymore. So I'm asking questions like, who's getting paid if I play this song? Who am I building up? Who am I neglecting, on the other hand? Whose point of view am I singing from? Is there only one worldview that I'm singing from? And it normally is one worldview. It's a white, male, Western worldview. Let's pull back a little bit, observe the sources of our songs, and let's diversify a little bit. There are other theologies, there are other concerns, there are other priorities, other emphases, and other people are singing about them. Let's find them, let's join them. So I want to find out who's missing. Where can I find them? So that's really it. I've probably raised more questions than I've answered.
There was a lot in there, Jesse. There might be some interesting follow-up questions, but thank you for that. It was a good summary. There was a lot in there, but it was a good summary of a framework of how to think through song selection.
There's a lot, and I'm by no means at the end of this journey. Like, these are things I'm learning along the way, and I've chosen some rubbish songs as well, or inappropriate songs, shall we say, along the way.
So good, so good. Thank you, Jesse. So if
My pleasure.
any of you have questions, please pop them into the Q&A. And as promised, we have a little surprise in lieu of the change to our panel and Sheena's emergency in her family. We are going to bring on unexpected special guest, Sylvia Burnside. And I think there's going to be a little turnaround here. Yes, applause for her. And she's going to pop up here on the screen, and I will introduce you, Sylvia, as soon as we can see your lovely face. Sylvia,
Hello.
our surprise guest. Thank you so much for joining us from Northern Ireland. You're a part of Causeway Coast Vineyard, vocal coach. You're also turning into a bit of a vocal singing consultant for people because you read all the studies and look at all the guidelines and do interesting experiments yourself as to what works with singing. And in our chat here in a moment, I think we're going to pop in a video, an interview that we did with Sylvia a couple of months ago, so you can get a bit more of the full picture of what she is talking about. We're literally just going to fire a couple of questions, I think, at you, Sylvia, and then see if there's any other questions in the webinar room here. But we've done actually 2 interviews together. We've done one longer one where you tell your story, which is part of the What is Worship series that everyone can find on all of our platforms. And then there's this one in the channel, which is a link to the YouTube shorter interview where you talk specifically about singing. So Tell us a little bit about what worship at Causeway Coast Vineyard looks like at the moment.
At the moment, we are doing a combination of things. So we have our online services, they are continuing because that has expanded and it has grown, and it has given a wonderful opportunity for people who would otherwise not necessarily feel comfortable coming into a church building to engage with church. And the other thing that we're doing is to meet in person, and we are blessed to have a venue that just allows that to happen in a really good way. So we have chairs that are all set out socially distanced. We've opted probably not to go the direction of bubbling as such, so just everyone is in the same camp, so to speak. And that means then that if there are visitors who come in on their own, we're all in the same situation, we're all in together. So that's actually been lovely. And so that happens over 3 services. 2 on a Sunday and then 1 on a Wednesday. And then our family service is on a Saturday. And I haven't been to the family service yet, but it sounds absolutely wonderful. And then besides that, then the youth, they meet in another area completely. So actually they go outside into the shed of all places, and they light fire pits and they have their worship. And I can tell you from the racket that we hear inside the church, they are having a ball. So it's been lovely.
Good. And you are worshiping together, but the congregation is not singing with you, right?
No, that's right. So like so many others in the UK, we are all coming in wearing masks. We have the team on the stage and we wear a mask until we get up onto the stage. And then there will be 2 singers, and there's an appropriate distance between where the singers are standing and the front row. And then we have pop shields over the microphones. And of course, anyone who uses a pop shield knows that you're going to sing very close to the pop shield. So really it behaves like a mask. So it just prevents that sort of projection into the poor congregation who are sitting like ducks waiting for it to land on them. So it has a good protective benefit, but it's working very well.
And so this thing of not singing has been such an unexpected challenge for so many of us. Certainly, I never saw it coming. I never thought, and even in all my talks about how the enemy silences us and tries to prevent us from using our voice, I never imagined a scenario where we would be encouraged not to sing. And then I never imagined a scenario where I would actually want to lay down my right to sing, because it seems like the compassionate thing to do and the honoring thing to do for the community, but also towards the leaders above me, who I know have a particular lean towards caution in that particular way. So we've talked a lot about singing, me and you. Can you give us, is there I know that you're totally on the spot as well, because it's at the last minute. But, in terms of where are you at with singing? What is there a nutshell version or a couple of key comments that you can make about singing as a vocal teacher as well?
Yeah, there absolutely is. There's 2 really, really key things that I would say. The first thing is, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, contrary to popular belief, it's the soul that sings. The voice merely sympathizes. So even when we're not singing, mark my words, you are singing. And really our physical body is just an expression of what is really ultimately internally happening. And the professional singer works to hone internally the visceral stuff, and then they pour out from that in expression in the performance. And so, yes, we work in a very physiological way, and we look to get that all nice, and we work towards excellence. But we would always say of the experience that it feels very superficial. The big work happens on the inside. And then the other really important thing, and this is very much just to do with me as a Christian, and for anyone who's a Christian, but God is the original singer. He is the source. And where the source is filing and ushering into our spirit and into our soul. Look, our soul is way louder than our voice will ever be. I can't wait for arriving in heaven to have a voice that can max out to the extent that my soul does, because I find that my voice has huge limitations, and that will be a very glorious day. So anything I can do in the meantime to get my soul ready for that. And I guess that's my journey with coronavirus. And we talked about, Harmony, how actually silence is vital to my development. If I don't learn silence, I learn nothing. Actually my whole audio and sensory kind of structures to do with learning is useless if I haven't learned to listen and listen with care. So I could talk on. That's probably.
Oh my goodness. Well, someone has just posted in here, I can't find the mind blown emoji. That was a lot. And I really appreciate the depth of what you've just said. I think we probably all need to just go away and be silent with the Lord. Think on that for a while. About your soul. Say that line again. Your soul.
Your soul sings and your voice sympathizes.
Unbelievable. I hope everybody wrote that down. So good. Now you all can see why I'm on the phone to Sylvia. Plus, she reads every bit of guidelines and every study and everything else, and then I don't have to read them. I just go, Sylvia, what do I need to know? So yes, let's bring everybody else back in and let's take some questions from the room. But I have to say, I think I need the mind blown emoji for everybody's contribution tonight. It's been absolutely staggering. So everybody's back on screen with me now. Olu, are you here? Where is he? Is he coming back? Hope we haven't lost him. There we go. Fantastic. All right, so there are some questions coming in here, and so you will probably respond to different questions and have things to say. So maybe we'll just start somewhere and see what happens. But yeah, there was a lot in all of those little talks. Thank you, everybody. From theologians, what is a theologian, to your soul, to the complexities, to the staying at your post and saying yes to Jesus. I feel really inspired. Okay, so here's a question that I kind of thought a variation of this would come up. I don't know how easy it is to answer it, but let's just take it on because that's the kind of people we are. We're not afraid of a hard question. Okay, so there are many members of our team now that haven't had the opportunity to serve on the worship team in over 7 months. What encouragement would you give to them in how to keep engaged with worship ministry? What advice would you give to worship pastors and coordinators who want to love these people and also make sure that they have team come back to when things open up again? I mean, fair enough, right? Okay, so the question is, how do we keep them engaged? What advice would you give to worship pastors and coordinators who want to keep this thing alive and breathing and have something to come back to? So who wants to dive into that one? Nobody.
I think Sylvia's just given me some new language to deal with this. I'm going to be like, it's your soul that plays drums. Your hands and your feet, they're just sympathizing.
There you go. Question. Andy Reid, I hope that's a sufficient answer to your question. It is so tricky. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll say that in life there is so rarely times where you get a real window of a year or more to actually give to practice. And while we hate the discussion of practice, those of us who are in the profession of music, well, I'm going to say secular, but we all know it's secular and it's all together, but you understand what I'm saying. But there's none of us enjoy it. We will do anything. We'll procrastinate to the moon and back to get away from practice. And yet we have a cracking opportunity. And if there was ways of you investing in the practice sessions that just helps things to grow and develop, then it means when you come back, you have significantly more to bring to the table to serve.
Come on. Great answer. Maria?
I can add something, but of course, we haven't been on lockdown as long as you. But I can just see that when we come back, some of the musicians had not played for 7 months. And for some, it was nerve-wracking. And for example, using in-ear monitors or following a click. If the band were using a click, they had to relearn. And other musicians, I was like, what happened? You are so much better now. I didn't expect that. That's awesome. So if you can, I don't know, what you said, Sylvia, inspire them to like, what's going to happen when you go back? You know, give us a surprise. A good surprise. Maybe that will help. And I don't know if I assume you as annoyed with Zoom meetings as I am, but we had Zoom meetings every month with all the worshippers who wanted to join just to catch up and try to worship together on screen. But I'm sure you've done all that, all of you. But I wanted to see how people were doing. And I think that was excellent to give me a reason to not just connect to people because they're musicians or for what they were doing, but you know how they were doing, how they're doing life. And you might never get that opportunity to only focus on that again.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent. So good.
I think also as well, like I was going to say the practice thing, but as well, I think we've got to look for opportunities to try and get people actually engaged. So we were planning on having live services at this time, and I was kind of tentatively putting together just kind of reaching out to people specifically and kind of putting their names on a preliminary rota and just fleshing it out. And I think sometimes we just need to be really intentional about trying to create opportunities for people to serve. And it may not always be the person that is the person we would put on absolutely every week, but it's actually just being intentional and actually pastoring our worship team and saying, let's try and get as many people engaged as possible, not just based on what's going to be simple for me, but what's actually going to be beneficial for the team and is going to keep everyone feeling like they're part of the worship team, even though they haven't been in church, even though we're not getting to see each other, because we can do that. It's just we have to be very, very intentional about that and understand that we're dealing with humans, with feelings, and that it's nice not being able to sing or play for 8 months out of the year. So yeah, I guess paying heed to that. I've been trying to just get people back in, like whenever I can, and really kind of just even trying to just weasel my way, just see if I can just squeeze someone in there. Can we just have another person? So yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah,
that's good. That's good. And maybe you didn't say it this time, Maria, but last time when you were on, you talked about discipleship, and that was the point you were making when you were saying I'm not as good of a leader as I thought I was. And I think this is, as well as practice, there's the practice of spiritual disciplines as well as our instrument. And really, as worship pastors and coordinators, that is as much or more our job. It all overlaps, doesn't it? Because practicing your instrument can be part of your journey of following Jesus, of course. I'm not saying that it's not, but there are lots of things that we can be practicing. And the really difficult thing sometimes as leaders is that we can't do it for people. And just as Maria was saying, some people will choose to go down that road and practice whatever it is they need to practice. and some people won't, and that's just really hard, that letting go and not taking on false responsibility for people's journey. I know I can find that really difficult sometimes. So there, I hope we did pretty good there, panel. I think we managed to pull out some decent answers to what is a very, very challenging question. Next question. Intimacy is so important to us. How do we create an environment of intimacy for people who are watching online, but also when we can meet in small, masked, not singing numbers again? How do we do this in the room? So intimacy in worship.
In our services, I think what worked well is that even though we couldn't sing, and there was 25 to 30 of us, so many people had their hands raised, were bowing down, were like posturing themselves in a way towards you, knew that everyone was kind of really hungry and like thirsting for like the presence of God, which in a strange way, especially some of the first few weeks back, even in fact all of the weeks where we had live services, so this just over the last 4 weeks, it was very, very like you could feel God's presence in the room, even though we were masked up and we weren't allowed to sing, because we've been so hungry for just being back in the same room. Mm-hmm. Everyone was just elated to just be back in the same room, back mm-hmm. worshiping, even though only the people on the stage are allowed to sing. So I guess it's about trying to have ways where we can worship and kind of like Sylvia was saying, allow our soul to kind of to do its thing without it coming out of our mouth. And yeah, I think there's been quite a few ways we've been doing that in our services, and hopefully by God's grace we'll get back to that very soon. But yeah.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to have a swing at that one?
Only just from a very quick technical point, with intimacy, just to do with singing and the expression of intimacy. We often struggle as singers to portray a broken voice, because we want our voice to sound in really good form. And where there, I know it's something even I grapple with, and would coach in and say to people, like, don't be scared to take your voice to very tender roots where you're wondering if it will sustain the note, because actually while we perceive that as a broken note, actually your congregation will perceive that as truth. And it was lovely, actually, Jessie, listening to you talking about truth and finding truth in songs. And when you get to express the truth of a phrase, so if I sing of love or I feel love, then I sing of love, you know, and I allow my voice to go there. I've probably said enough. I think I've made my point. I'll stop now, because I'm a good waffler and you know that harmony very well. But I hope that helps a wee bit with technique.
That's really good.
I'd just add to that yeah, I've felt so deeply vulnerable in this time of having to record onto camera and lead worship to a wall, and I think that has fostered, perhaps, I don't know where it's gone in terms of the intimacy that individual church members are experiencing with God, but it's certainly fostered a kind of intimacy between me and them that hasn't been experienced before, because there are so many, when you're worshiping in the room, there are so many factors that mitigate against your lack of technique, or shall I say my lack of technique, certainly vocally. But there was just something I needed to get over in terms of, you know, being okay with the fact that I'm not as accomplished a vocalist as I would like to be. And when others were worshiping with that, it seemed as though they saw that, they felt that, and that fostered a trust and a connection that otherwise wouldn't have been there, or certainly not to the extent that it now is. So yeah.
All right, I think we're going to keep keep moving here. Thanks, Jesse. Because, for a while there was only a couple of questions, and now they're coming in. And now I need to say to all of you, we won't get to all of your questions. But the next question that's actually up, I am going to skip it, not because it's a bad question, but if we have time, we'll come back to it. It might just, we will probably get stuck there and we won't get to any other questions. It's pretty philosophical in nature. I want to talk a little bit about song selection, because there's a couple of questions about that. Let's see if we can kind of overlap them a little bit. So one question about song selection is, how do we discern the way song selection is making an impact in our worship and online services when we have no room to read? A good question. Have you found it harder in this time to know what God is doing during the worship time? So there's another aspect of that question as well. And then connected to song selection as well, where is a good place to find the types of songs that Jesse is talking about? It seems that all you can find online is mainstream. And then outside that, songs seem to be a bit hit or miss. So any comments on song selection?
I'll try and hit those really quickly. With the last one first, it is going to take a little bit more work. You do have to sort of burrow beneath the surface, and I think I'm beginning to feel like that is a burden I want to take on, because I want to. It's like eating food that is grown locally rather than eating food that is sort of shipped in and has got lots of miles on it. It's just, it might be easier to get the mass-produced stuff from far away, but I really want to see what we can cultivate locally if we just burrow a little bit deeper. It's so hard to hear the voice of your own local people if they're drowned out by the monopolies. So yeah, look at what your own local churches are producing. What was the other question?
The other question was about basically, I'm using a new song. This is how I understand it. I'm using a new song. I have no idea whether it's landing because I can't see it.
Yeah.
We're used to measuring whether a song is working. This is actually maybe the core of the question.
Yeah.
How do you know if a song is working?
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think you've got to go on faith a little bit and just like always, select the songs that actually sort of say what you think or what you sense the congregation needs to have on their lips, or if not on their lips, on their, the other bits that sympathize with their lips. You can worship by, clapping your hands or kneeling down but I guess what I'm saying is you've got to take people where you as a leader believe that they need to go. And you can't take responsibility for whether or not they go there. And actually, I don't think we're that good. I think although we do have certain metrics for how people are responding to things, I don't think we really know. They might sing a little louder, but who knows whether actually the theology is taking them where you want them, where you're trying to lead them. You don't really know for sure.
Brilliant. Yeah. Anyone else want to add to that?
I think that Jesse is so right. And I think, of course, now we are gathering, but what has meant most to us is to sing local songs. Those are the songs that resonate with us. That's putting words to what we are in. And some of the songs that are birthed during this season is also really important for us to sing right now. And then trust the Holy Spirit. He's not limited to whether you are on a screen or you're on a stage. It doesn't matter. Go with that gut feeling.
Good word there, Maria. That is brilliant. And I'm feeling like Jimmy Cook. I know he's somewhere in the call. I feel like he's I don't have a message from him, but I feel like he's sending me a message right now. I'm feeling it in my soul. And he's saying, you're part of the Vineyard family, and maybe it would be a good idea to sing some of our Vineyard family songs. Enough said. So next question. Actually, some of these questions I'm just going to answer really quickly by saying yes to them. So for instance, this question: does a temporary restriction on using our sung instruments, I assume you mean voices, is it an opportunity for played instruments to play a different role in our worship environments? Yes, it is. Go and do it and come and tell us your stories. What happens? I love where that's coming from. It's very, very good. And then there's something here about silence. Yes, it's good. We need to try all these things. We have been experimenting with using spiritual disciplines. Are any of you doing that? And if so, could you share some best practices and no-goes? Here's what I'm going to say to that question, because we're a little bit short on time. There is a really helpful interview with the Wileys from West Wilts Vineyard. It's a What is Worship interview. You can find it on our platforms. They talk a lot about spiritual practices that you can try in worship. And my answer to that is yes, try them. It's great to answer questions like this. I think we could spend all day on all of these questions, but we've got 2 minutes left. There's one question here about how we interact with songwriters who have fallen from grace. And I think that's a really tricky question. And what I think you should do, the person who asked this question, I think you should email Jesse and set up a little Zoom call, chat with him. He would love to sit and chat that through with you.
I'm always falling from grace.
Not because you're falling from grace, but because you love to sit and chat with people about difficult questions, and you'll have no doubt some helpful insights. So the person who asked this question, if you need help connecting with Jesse, please let us know. Another question about expressing worship through Psalms, kneeling, bowing, raising hands, clapping hands. Yes, please. What we need you to do is try some stuff, guys. We need you to try stuff because we are in a season where no one has gone before. We need you to try things, and then we need you to come back and tell us your story. Send us an email, pick up the phone. We would love to hear stories, and maybe even some stories of, do you know what, that really didn't work. That would help the rest of us, but we need to try some stuff. It's too early for us to have all the answers on these things. The philosophical question, which has now disappeared from my screen, but it was a brilliant question, which was basically, if I can recall, it was something about, do we just want to return back to where we were before? And I think actually we don't have a lot of time. Can we just do a very quick, give us a quick response to that? One of the questions is maybe, what do we want to keep? What do we want to return back to? Thoughts?
In terms of, do we want to return back to where we were? I don't think so. I think we've kind of, the way we've done church is kind of gone, and we kind of have to step into something new and accept that there's going to be long-lasting changes for the foreseeable future. And also, I think having to reprioritize certain things that we've had to reprioritize, I think has been a really good thing. And I don't think we want to lose finding out the reason why we're doing this stuff and becoming more earnest in our reasoning for why we do it and how we're doing it. So yeah, that's definitely.
That was a fantastic answer. Anyone else want to add to that fantasticness? So much wisdom in that.
I just want to say that from the beginning of this whole pandemic, I've kind of, in terms of conceptualizing who we are and where we are and what we're supposed to be doing theologically, I've resonated with the people that found themselves in exile after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And I think we're there right now. I think we're in exile, and I think that our past lies in rubble, and we need to work out what the future looks like. We need to rebuild, but it won't look the same as it was before. In fact, the time that the Israelites spent in exile was some of the most fruitful and creative time in their entire history. And yeah, I just think hopefully it won't take 70 years, but yeah, we do need to leave the past where it is, you know, learn the lessons, but rebuild.
Another profoundly moving answer.
Yeah, and I think it's also a time to revise, what the things that we were doing that we were not supposed to do. And then when you pick up meeting, don't do it. Just don't go back to the same. Look at what's important. What does God want you to do? And I honestly, when I even look back at our process of revising what's important and what's not important, it's not easy. And I'm not sure we have made all the right choices, to be honest with you. I think we still have more to learn, because it's also about being brave and make some brave choices. Because people are just longing for things to be the same as they have always been.
Yes, it's good. Again, thank you. You are all doing amazingly. Sylvia, is there anything you want to say on this? Oh, we can't hear you just now.
The others have answered so well, but I would love to just share very quickly something that might be helpful in terms of having a perception of how music will interact, with people in different settings, that I hope will inspire you to push towards the newness rather than just going back to status quo. And it is this idea that when we give off sound in its varying colours, it changes shapes and the frequencies in the room. And even if you clear the room out and you bring the people back in again and there's essentially no music happening, the atmospherics are still there, those frequencies are still circulating. So like the many flakes of snow that we see, and everyone has a different shape, when you give off the beauty of Christ, actually that stays in the room for a very long time. And we've an opportunity here to really delve into sounds and expressions, and as Jessie and Maria and Olu have rightly said, really delving into the idea that we find our own sound, our own colour for our area, for our region, and express that with beauty.
So good. So good. Well, we are out of time. My heart is full. I feel so encouraged. I also feel like that tug, that pull of, oh, wouldn't it be so good to be together? We really don't want this to last for 70 years. I love that someone put that into the chat. Oh, please, Lord, let's not do this for 70 years. But in the meantime, we shall remain at our post. We will remain faithful to Jesus, who's faithful to us. And I would love to just pray for us and send us on our way until we meet again. So, Jesus, thank you for your faithfulness to us. Thank you that you never let us down, that you are always present with us, no matter what we're facing. And I pray, would you help us to learn the things that we are supposed to learn in this season? I pray that you would give us humility, make us teachable, help us to surrender, to lay down our rights. Come, Holy Spirit, and fill each one of us with the kind of bravery and courage that Maria was referring to. Give us courage to do what you're asking of us in this season. Empower our worship, strengthen the soul that worships within us, and strengthen that theologian within each one of us that is grappling with what is true and what is right and what is wise in this season. Help us, Holy Spirit. We need you more than ever before. I pray a blessing on this worship tribe. Fill every person on this call with a sense of your presence with them and a filling of your Holy Spirit. And we just receive everything that you have for us at this time. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you, Worship Tribe, for your faithfulness, for your endurance and your perseverance. And it's great to connect with you. We miss you. Keep in touch. We always love hearing from you. You're never a nuisance or a bother. Drop us an email. Keep in touch. Thank you to all the panelists. You have been wonderful. Sylvia, for dropping in with no notice, really. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Have a really good rest of your weekend, everyone. Goodbye.